Hi, once again, great to have you with us for this edition of Leading Edge. I'm your host, Jeff Smith. Coming up a little later, a conversation I had this week where there was actually talk of consolidating area nonprofits in the new year. We'll tell you what that's all about. But first, some would say when she ran for mayor the first time, it was part of a show of force by some disgruntled Maumee residents. But only a few months later, after a series of surprising moves at City Hall, it's real. It's happening. Chelsea Ziss is now the youngest ever and the first female mayor in Maumee, and she says she's still wrapping her head around it all.
So it was very quick in succession. It was very surprising. And that's when we had learned that our president of council did not want to take those reins. And I absolutely do not blame him at all. It is quite the experience to go through it. So it was very fast. I think it was all set in motion
Well,
when
let me stop you
he
right there.
resigned.
You said I understand why he said I didn't want to take the reins, but here you are sitting in the mayoral position. What is the hesitation? What is on the back of your mind that you're like, I can get it why he didn't want it?
I think that because of my mindset of having already sort of potentially understanding that that might happen, that I might be stepping into that role, that sort of campaigning during recall. I was already considering the things that I would do, how I would handle things, and the steps that I want to take, and had already been researching a little bit about it. Even though the recall didn't happen, that portion of it was still getting ready for it and gearing up for it. Whereas when our previous mayor resigned, it was quite a surprise, and with only 1 week's notice.
We went downtown last night. We went all through Maumee, and of course, we're shooting this on Wednesday, airing on Sunday. But we went through the downtown area. We talked to business owners. They didn't want to comment. They didn't want
Hmm.
to comment because they said they feared backlash, and
Yes.
that's what they told of our reporter. So why do you think they think that?
One of the things that I specialize in is culture, right? We have had such a quick series and succession of changes, and businesses rely on the city's stability to do well. And the more instability there is, and the more confusion and chaos at City Hall and with the citizens, at this point, if I were a business owner, I'd probably not want to speak to anybody either. I'm hoping to go out into the community and talk to some businesses and let them know that
Calm
just
some
because
fears.
yeah, well, and I'm trying to do that everywhere, and that's how I originally got involved in all of this to begin with. It wasn't to be contrarian or a divisive character in the city, although I've ended up in that role. It's really that it's trying to bring not unity, because there's no such thing as unity or unison in a community. Everybody's got different ideals and morals and ways that they think that things should be done. I'm more of a let's at least have some harmony person. So knowing that there have been so many changes and there's gonna be more changes. We're hiring a new administrator, we're hiring HR at the city. The sewer project's still going on, economic development is still going on. All of these things are happening all at once while we are having the biggest leadership changeover that has ever happened in the city. That's a scary, daunting thing.
And it's scary and daunting. And you even told our cameras, you said, I don't have a lot of political experience. So I ask you this, and it's not an easy question, but
Sure.
I've interviewed a number of political candidates. I've interviewed a number of presidential candidates. I've interviewed doctors. That doesn't mean I can go in and operate on
Mhm.
somebody. It doesn't mean I can be president. Why are you able today to tell the citizens of Maumee, I'm ready for this. I can handle this.
I think the biggest reason, and I kind of joked about it, and I had called a staff meeting at the city that first day, that Monday, even before I was sworn in, because they're going through a lot of fear and change too. It's not just the citizens, it's not just the businesses. Everything is a little bit chaotic. But for the last 3 years, I have been essentially training with my current workplace. I work at Inclusity, which is based out of Perrysburg, but we have clients all over the country, everywhere. And it specializes in leadership development, organizational development, change management, culture transformation, building trust, relationship dynamics on an organizational level. Some of the companies that our organization deals with have more employees than there are residents in this city. So while I don't have the specific political experience, the combination of me being involved for the last year and a half, attending all of the city council meetings and at most of the committee meetings, reading all of the ordinances front to back, and literally spending 3 years learning and understanding organizational development, you know, culture on a much bigger scale than just a small, even just one small company. It's almost like another day of work for me. This is something I'm used to.
So is that to say the leadership in Maumee has been too political over the years? And maybe there was the need for somebody who was less political?
When you look at leadership of a city and leading a city, it's not just one monolithic item because you have the residents there at the forefront. The city is for the citizens. You also have economic development to provide those services. You have to grow and gain revenue and get businesses here so that you can provide those services efficiently and as low a cost as possible. The infrastructure is its whole other issue. And aside from that, you have this organizational culture within the city of Maumee. And all of those things are separate and all need to be maintained and cared for. If you don't have someone who at least can focus on some of those things, um, as opposed to all of them, it can be troublesome. So we've done a lot of economic development. That's, you know, no matter what, there's been economic development. We're obviously focusing on infrastructure, but culture and how people interact and how the city interacts with residents, how the city interacts with businesses, and how the city interacts with its own employees is really paramount to defining that path forward. Because right now, we know we need a new city administrator. We need somebody with that infrastructure experience, with that planning experience, with that realm that as a politician or as a regular citizen, I'm just not going to have because that's not my career path. However, I tell you what, if I were a city administrator and I Googled Maumee, I'd hesitate. So if we can figure out a way to bring some of that culture back, bring that sense of community back, and get some real talent in the city to support the already extremely great talent we have in the city already, it's going to be amazing. But we have to get over that culture of fear, the culture of instability first. We have to build some trust.
My conversation with new Maumee Mayor Chelsea Ziss continues. She told me about calling a staff meeting, something she says hadn't happened for months.
You know, any sense of direction at this point, because the departments are very strong. They can run the things that they're supposed to be doing. They're already in those positions because they know how to do those jobs. But without sort of that top-down leadership to sort of light the path forward, they don't have the interconnectedness or the cross-functionality that an organization should have. You know, people say the city should be run like a business. It is a business, it's an organization. So they have to run together. They hadn't had a staff meeting since June or July. Because when you're departmental, who knows when to call a meeting? Do I have the authority? Am I stepping on toes? All of that is a problem because people shouldn't have to feel like they're stepping on toes. They should be able to say, I think we should do this. I think it's important that we talk and get together. But it's hard when you don't have that top-down leadership. And having been without an administrator since August and with the absence of the mayor, I just wanted to bring everybody together in one room and talk about our next steps, our next priorities, and our culture.
And did you receive some praise, some pats on the back after the meeting?
Yeah, I think a lot of people were excited to get in together with the staff meeting and to talk amongst the other departments. You know, some of them are all in different buildings. Fire's in a different building, services in a different building, police is in a different building than the administration. The courts are on a different floor. There's a lot of not just separation because of the type of work, but actual physical separation. So they don't pass each other in the hallway. They don't have that proximity to be able to do that. So getting everybody in a room together, we did what I like to call what's on fire drill, where we talk about what is each department's or division's first priority. I'm not there as mayor. I'm not going to run their departments. That's not what the mayor does. The mayor is not the micromanager. I don't know how to read plans. I can make sense of things. But what it's really about is making sure that the things are running well and making sure that the people can work together well. So that's a big part of what I do.
Talk to me a little bit about the importance of that city administrator position, filling that. I've heard a name that has been surfacing. I don't know if you want to reveal that to me, but how important is that to you in doing your job you see uh, through 2027 at this point?
City administrator is going to be extraordinarily important. That position is open. It's posted. You can find it on the web. It's through the Blade. It's on IMCA and some other websites. But it's really important that we find a city administrator who's got some energy, who's got some empathy, and who has time. I don't want somebody who's going to coast because we don't have time for that. There's no coasting in Maumee right now. Everything is pedal to the metal. So really finding someone who has, yes, experience, important, being able to understand economic development, being able to understand planning, being able to have at least a broad sense of knowledge of all of these different departments and how they work, all that is important. But I think almost even more important than that is a really firm grasp of people and culture and energy, somebody who wants to get in. I want somebody who looks at Maumee and goes, I can get in there and I can take the reins and I can fix it. That's what I'm hoping to find.
And finally, let me ask you, what are your top two priorities through the rest of this year into the early part of 2026?
Two? Only two? Well,
We've got a short show.
short show. Yeah, I get it. The biggest thing right now for me is really, again, I've said it a million times, culture is trust building with residents, trust building with the businesses, trust building with the employees. All of these people need to have at least, if not a friendship or a sense of love, they gotta at least be able to speak without fear, and warranted or not, because some of it isn't warranted. Some of it is just fear, it's just conditioning, just getting rid of some of that fear and understanding and letting people know there's not going to be retaliation. Second one is obviously our infrastructure and the sewer and making sure that that program runs smoothly and that we stay compliant with the EPA while, keeping the citizens informed. And of course, economic development is going to be really important for us. We're going to need all the development we can get that's going to be good for both businesses and the citizens.
Being on the inside, you've been on the outside, you've been speculative. Um, you've been, I guess, not pessimistic about what you would find, but are you scared of what you might find on the inside?
You know, I have spent most of the last 3 days up at the city building just to get the lay of the land. I went over and visited some other departments and divisions with people who I haven't met. My plan is to go around to pretty much all of the divisions and departments in the cities just to get a baseline understanding of where they're at, where we're at. I'm not so much scared because, like I said, working at Inclusity, this is what that organization does. So, you said I sound like a coach. Inclusity does coaching. That's what they do. And I wasn't necessarily always a part of that specifically, but that understanding, even somebody asked me, the staff asked me the same question. How's your hair not standing on end? How are you not having a panic attack? This is another day of work for me. This is what I do and what I help the people at my work do is really make sure that sort of, sense of inclusion, making everybody feel included, making everyone feel heard so that they can do their jobs. That's all anybody wants. They want to go, they want to do their jobs, and they want to do it well, and then they want to go home. That's what
How
I'm trying to do.
how open are you to advice, even if it comes from former mayors and or officials?
I'm very open to conversations with anybody who wants to have them, whether they're former officials, former employees, mayors in other cities, trustees in other cities. It's, because I know that I don't have the same experience in governance, having some of that understanding of how things work is good. That doesn't mean that it'll be exactly how I go about things, but you got to have the understanding and you can't achieve a goal. So one of the things I said in the staff meeting, we We have a lot of goals, but a goal without a plan is just a wish. If you don't have a baseline understanding, you can't measure how you get to those goals. And that's what I'm going to try to do.
Welcome back. The Greater Toledo Community Foundation connects donors with nonprofits, and this year distributed $47 million in gifts. I spoke this week with Foundation President Kate Sommerfeld, I should say, about the wins and the challenges ahead.
Certainly, I think in this moment, there is great need. We're obviously going into the winter months. It's getting much colder out. And so our shelters are seeing increased volume. We're seeing certainly needs around food and security, but incredibly proud and grateful for our nonprofits who are on the front line serving every day.
We keep hearing that nonprofits are being asked to do a lot more with a lot less right now. So what does that look like in the Greater Toledo area for you guys?
I think we are seeing challenges and changes, not only in giving. We look at Giving USA, which is the annual report around giving, and this comes out in the summer. So really tracks changes in individual giving and corporate giving. There's a new tax bill that goes into effect in 2026, and so we are seeing a lot of individuals try to get in yet this year under the existing tax rules and regs to be able to get the full charitable benefit and tax deduction that's in effect in 2025. So certainly there's changes in giving. We're seeing challenges and changes for corporate giving as well. There's some new specific regulations for corporations in this new tax year. So certainly changes around giving both at the state and the federal level. Obviously the environment is shifting. Our nonprofits, I can tell you, wake up every day and they not only think about the need, but they're also bringing best practices. They're innovating. They're thinking about how we partner, how we collaborate in a way that, quite frankly, Jeff, I haven't seen, probably having worked in this area for the last 15 years, there's a level and a spirit of collaboration that is happening today that I haven't seen since I've been working in community building.
And is that because of having to, I guess, relearn the dynamic of giving, especially as the federal government pulls back the reins a little bit on what is doled out? Is that forcing these nonprofits, even your organization, to kind of relearn how to do this?
You know, it's interesting. We, as we all went through COVID and kind of experienced that global shift, right? All of a sudden, the world shifted dramatically. And we certainly, I think, learned a lot from COVID, right? We got more efficient, we got more effective. There were certainly challenges across our community, and we saw incredibly devastating impacts. But there were also some things that came out of COVID that really sharpened our ability to deliver services, to think more creatively and more innovatively as well. And so I think in this moment, it's both encouraging, a sense of innovation, right? We're having to be more creative, but also that sense of collaboration. Last night, we hosted a group of nonprofits that serve women and girls, as an example. There were 20 of them, and they came together just to talk about where their challenges are for nonprofits. How could they work more effectively together? Are there shared services that they could be able to offer? And so again, that spirit of collaboration, the innovation, the generosity that we're seeing
Well,
is truly inspiring.
let me stop you right there. On that point, are you saying that some of these nonprofits, where we're seeing two, may band together in 2026 and become one?
Yeah, I think, for the Community Foundation, we work to connect across a lot of different issue areas. And so nonprofits today, I think that spirit of collaboration, not only for organizations, as an example, that are working in education or they're working in housing, the coordination that is happening specifically around our housing and our shelters is incredible, right? Working together to figure out how we house individuals. We're also seeing really interesting collaboration across areas. So we fund the Strategic Alliance Partnership Grant, and that's to help organizations and nonprofits to explore everything from collaborations to full-on mergers, and thinking about combining nonprofits together. And this past year, we saw a number of nonprofits that were in completely different areas. So one that was in the environmental space, one that was serving youth, and one that was serving in the education space. And they came together, again, very different missions, but they were all smaller nonprofits, and they were able to band together and to think about their shared services, their accounting practices. That's not only always the most fun and exciting, but it's certainly how we deliver services. So again, that level of creativity, the collaboration, both within the issue areas, but also nonprofits of all scale and sizes as well.
Do you expect more of that to come down the line?
Yeah, I think the world, obviously, it's shifting dramatically, right? And I think we're going to anticipate seeing some changes at the state level as well in 2026. And so even things like the property tax elimination that's being proposed, right? The source and revenue, it will require and is requiring us to be more creative. Luckily, I think, our community is so generous. The foundation had our best year in foundation history in 2024, and have exceeded that year to date. So while the need has never been higher, we're also seeing incredible generosity. Again, that's time, talent, and treasure. It's not always the dollars. Sometimes it's being able to volunteer on boards, helping to support and delivering food through to our seniors. So really creative ways. The needs have never been higher, but so is our generosity in this community.
Well, we hope you have enjoyed this episode of Leading Edge. If you want to reach the show with comments, ideas, suggestions, it's easy. Just send us an email. The address is leadingedge, it's all one word, at WTOL.com. Once again, leadingedge, all one word, at WTOL.com. We appreciate you spending some time breaking off a part of your day to be with us as always. And until next time, I'm Jeff Smith. Listen, learn, and lead.